You might picture an introvert as someone who is painfully timid and avoids social situations at all costs when you hear the word. Perhaps you can even immediately relate to the word since you would rather remain home and read a book than go out. But those connections frequently represent a very skewed perception of introversion. Early in the 1900s, psychiatric pioneer Carl Jung created the ideas of introversion and extroversion. He asserts that one of the simplest indicators of an introvert is how they recharge their social energy. He claimed that although extroverts are revitalized by social interaction, introverts prefer to stay in minimally stimulating surroundings and frequently turn inward to recharge. Additionally, introverts frequently have a weak social urge and avoid engaging in social activities. Since then, a lot of scholars have worked to define introversion more precisely. Researchers Jennifer Grimes, Jonathan Cheek, and Julie Norum identified 4 broad types of introverts in 2011: social introvert, thinking introvert, anxious introvert, and restrained introvert. What's a social introvert? More than the majority of individuals, social introverts cherish isolation. Although they enjoy their alone time, they don't mind getting together with their close friends and family on occasion. According to Anthony Frary, LMHC, NCC, CCMHC, a licensed psychotherapist and the clinical director of the Soho Center for Mental Health Counseling in New York, social introverts are less interested in large gatherings or parties. He also says that although it's simple to mistake a social introvert for someone who has social anxiety, the two are not the same. A social introvert doesn't avoid crowds because of anxiety but rather because of their preference. Where they feel the most comfortable and happy is either in complete solitude or in small groups in more subdued places. You may be a social introvert if you prefer small, private events, willingly travel alone on a date or holiday, require alone to rejuvenate, particularly in a partnership, accept social invites with the purpose of declining to attend. What is a thinking introvert? The thinking introvert is very cognitive by nature. Often intellectual, this type of introvert is often at peace when studying, reading, learning, researching, and investigating, clinical psychologist Carla Marie Manley, Ph.D., explained. The reflective introvert will frequently reflect before responding to a question. The introvert of the pondering type may respond with, "Let me think about that." Such introverts, according to Manley, are prone to daydreaming and may even mentally disappear from talks as a result of withdrawing into their own minds. The clinical psychologist and author of Introvert Power, Laurie Helgo, Ph.D., also points out that because they are such good listeners, thinking introverts are sometimes mistaken for extroverts. People may mistake the receptive attitude of these introverts as an invitation to talk more, when their silence may, in fact, be a pause to think, she says. You may be a thinking introvert if you are more introspective than the typical introvert. Will tend to favor pastimes that offer a mental sanctuary for thought, such as reading, researching, music, or other creative endeavors. Are generally not reactive and frequently take a moment to reflect before responding to a question. Really self-aware. What is an anxious introvert? According to Manley, the anxious introvert is frequently quiet and may seem tense or uneasy. This kind of introvert withdraws from situations and people that can exacerbate their discomfort. Although the going inward conduct of the anxious introvert might be extremely avoidant and even come off as unpleasant, it is simply a protective, sheltering defense mechanism at the action. Due to anxiety or worry, you'll probably find anxious introverts at home. They typically catastrophize events before they occur, which eventually prevents them from moving outside of their comfort zones. Typical indications of anxiety in introverts usually appear at least a little uneasy in most circumstances. It could come off as quite unpleasant and avoidant. Will do anything to avoid social situations. According to Osibodu Anyali, worried introverts are likely to struggle with speed dating and other social dating activities. However, dating while a nervous introvert is possible. They frequently function well when dating close friends or being introduced by close friends. When it comes to dating, she advises people to wear things that are familiar to them. Choose dates that are pleasurable for both you and your spouse, and don't venture too far beyond your comfort zone. What is a restrained introvert? The restrained introvert, also known as the inhibited introvert, is typically more guarded with strangers until they get to know them. But they simply come out as thoughtful and grounded, not timid or avoidant. The restrained introvert has a tendency to be contemplative and even slow-moving. This type of introvert is typically very controlled, unemotional, and may have very grounded energy. This particular subtype of introvert frequently exhibits a very rock-like character. The reserved type of introvert is frequently the calm, responsible person on whom others frequently rely. You may be a restrained introvert if you always proceed more slowly and methodically, tend to prefer routine activities, are often emotionless. What about social anxiety? The greatest places for introverts to recharge are on their own or with a small group of others. Fear of social situations is known as social anxiety because we feel unqualified and as though everyone is judging every little detail of our performance. As a result, we steer clear of them, which makes us feel more hopeless about our social abilities. According to Mental Health America, social energy and introversion are related, whereas social anxiety is a mental illness associated with a fear of social contact. You might be a thinking introvert if you frequently need to leave the group chat to consider, or overthink, your subsequent remark. Do you still feel anxious and tense even when you're at your most relaxed? You might be a more fearful introvert. With a better understanding of the various sorts of introverts, you can potentially get a little bit closer to realizing your full potential through self-awareness. Introverts can succeed in business, have a fulfilling social life, and find love in a variety of ways. You can only advance if you are aware of how you interact with others and what you need to refuel.